6 years ago, in fact, we had a different health crisis. It was called Ebola. And we all remember that pandemic. Barack Obama and Joe Biden did their job. Only 2 people in the United States died. 2.
Senator Harris, she's just wrong. First off, Ebola was never labeled a pandemic by the WHO or the CDC. That's because there were never any large outbreaks outside of West Africa, and there was virtually no risk of it spreading to the U.S. Unlike COVID, Ebola is not easily transmissible. The only way to get it is direct contact with an infected person's bodily fluids. But Harris wasn't done politicizing a disease, and then she came after this show. Watch.
When other countries are following the science, Trump pushed miracle cures he saw on Fox News. While other countries were flattening the curve, he said the virus would just, poof, go away. Quote, like a miracle.
I'm going to give you a miracle. We flattened the curve, which meant keeping cases from overwhelming the hospital system. That effort was a success. And as for her trashing Laura Ingraham and this show for the advocacy of hydroxychloroquine, Harris is dead wrong. They say we need to listen to the medical experts. I agree. Joining us now is Dr. Harvey Risch. He is the world-renowned epidemiology professor at the Yale School of Medicine, and Dr. Ramin, cardiologist and CEO of Foxhall Cardiology. Dr. Risch, you've written that the political climate has made objective discussions of hydroxychloroquine impossible. Your response to Kamala Harris, what did she get wrong?
Oh, good evening, Raymond. So she's talking about the H word. We have a new expression for that. The problem is that nobody's addressing the science. Everybody's talking around the science, talking about the science, but not actually talking about the science. The science is perfectly clear if you define it. Yeah. And that's what I did in my op-ed in the Washington Examiner recently. Just you have to be very precise. If you're precise, all the evidence shows that the drugs work. Hydroxychloroquine plus zinc plus azithromycin and so on, it works in high-risk outpatients. It is a miracle drug. It does work. The president was right, but he's not the medical expert. The science is the expert, and that's what it says.
Right. No, this has become supercharged in a horrible way. Dr. Oskoui, your reaction to this and why this is, because if it could save lives, why are we worried about cheap political points, no matter what party it is or what the drug is?
Well, I think these aren't cheap political points. This is American politics now. If you notice, again, as Dr. Risch said, she never speaks to the science. The science is very clear. Your own viewers can go to C19study.com. Look at the studies. Look at the breakdown. But I think what you have in Kamala Harris is the woman who said 5-6 months ago on CNN that she was against Donald Trump. She would vote for George Bush if that were her only option. She's a political opportunist who's doing what those people do. She has no moral center. She has nothing at all. She's an empty vessel.
Dr. Risch, we previously talked about the Henry Ford Health System study, which found hydroxychloroquine cut the COVID death rate in half. However, this week, that same health system says the FDA denied them from using the drug to treat patients. Why do you think the FDA is so dug in on this anti-hydroxy stance, given the international studies now rolling in, confirming the efficacy of this drug?
Well, I've been complaining about the FDA's behavior for quite a while now, and I think the FDA has other interests than the interests of the American public at heart. They've expressed untruths and misrepresentations on their websites. They've approved hydroxychloroquine in the past with slimmer evidence and more evidence of harm, and now when it comes up for usage in outpatients, they've rejected that, even though there's stronger evidence and less evidence of harm. So they've been inconsistent on that.
Yeah, there's the other point that hydroxychloroquine is a cheap drug, and the FDA gets a third of its funding from drug companies. So there is a financial incentive here. That's the reality. Today, Biden offered this miracle mandate for stopping the spread of COVID. I want your reaction.
Every single American should be wearing a mask when they're outside for the next 3 months at a minimum. Every governor should mandate mandatory mask wearing. It's not about your rights, it's about your responsibilities. as an American. My colleague and running mate, she has a few comments to make.
Dr. Biden. Dr. Oskoui, the enforcement of this aside, what about the medical efficacy of wearing masks, hopefully not over your eyes, outside? And what do you make of this 3-month mandate?
Well, you know, he's picked this out of thin air. There's no evidence that shows that masks are going to be effective, except perhaps N95 masks. But to wear them outside is ridiculous. There's numerous data, randomized controlled studies, summarized in a May 20th, 2020 CDC protocol that shows 12 randomized controlled studies. Masks don't work for influenza-like illnesses. This is probably, though, a virus that's predominantly oral fecal spread, and masks just won't work. Where he gets the 3 months in the studies, probably in his enfeebled brain. I don't know.
Dr. Risch, your reaction when you heard Biden ask for that 3-month mandatory mask mandate across the country?
Well, I think that it's an overreaction, and I don't know which constituency he's playing to, but it's not medically indicated. Masks may have some effectiveness to prevent other people from you. They have less to protect you from other people.
Dr. Fauci today showed up. He seemed to endorse mail-in voting today, which is interesting given how he's repeatedly said he didn't want to get involved in politics. Watch.
I don't want to get involved in politics. If I get involved in politics, what happens is it diverts the message. Forget the politics. Look at the data. I'm not in a position to determine what the government can do in a forceful way.
That was from the National Geographic today. I'm waiting for him to show up on Rachel Ray. Dr. Oskoui, why is Fauci straying so far from science and wading into political observations now?
He's really become more of a politician than a doctor. Why he goes here, I think, because he's being outshone on the science by Dr. Scott Atlas, who's done a brilliant job so far. Very articulate.
Okay, gentlemen, we will leave it there. I thank you both for your insight and bravery coming on and talking about this so clearly and consistency.